Welcome into another video with Ace Spiral. We are breaking down the final division in the NFL, the AFC West, with the Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, Las Vegas Raiders, and Los Angeles Chargers. This could be one of the more competitive divisions in the NFL. I'm still a little up in the air about how I feel about the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought their draft picks were pretty good. Obviously, I think Fernando Mendoza was the number one overall quarterback in this draft, so I have high hopes for him. I thought they got a steal in Jermod McCoy in the fourth round, and I think that these other teams in Denver, Kansas City, and LA made some good offseason moves. So we will get right into this, breaking down the teams, offense and defense, talking about what I like and dislike, where I think they could be positive for the entire season. And then at the end of the video, we'll rank, talk about some storylines, and we will be one step closer to the NFL season this year, which I think is going to be an outstanding one. Let's get right into it with the Denver Broncos and this depth chart. Denver Broncos with Bo Nix at quarterback, who I think is quite exceptional in the fact that he has done nothing but win so far in the NFL. Sean Payton has utilized him quite well, getting him out of the pocket, getting him on the move, using his legs, using his pretty good playmaking ability and arm talent on the run specifically to get this offense to win games. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, Jonah Coleman. I think it's a pretty good running back room. I don't think R.J. Harvey's anything more that will. I don't think R.J. Harvey will be anything more than a third down change of pace back unless he gets forced into a role due to an injury, which is what happened last year with J.K. Dobbins going down. But I think if Dobbins does go down, which he always does, unfortunately, I'm hoping this year is different. I think that he has been pretty good since he's been healthy, um, both with the Chargers and now the Broncos. They brought him back for a reason. I think that when he was running the ball, he was running at a very high clip, very high yards per carry. And Jonah Coleman, I think if he does get hurt, could step into that number one role, but will be the number three until that happens, just because J.K. Dobbins is a trusted veteran. In this offense, we have Courtland Sutton, Jalen Waddle, and Troy Franklin as the top three, with Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant, and LaJordan Humphrey as the second set of three for wide receivers. Going out and trading for Waddle, I think, is a big move. It's a win now move for this team that has been right on the precipice, especially last year, with a Bo Nix injury away, basically, from potentially being in the Super Bowl. I thought that if Bo Nix was healthy, they probably would have beaten the Patriots. And Stidham just couldn't get it done. But I think the addition of Jalen Waddle and getting Bo Nix back healthy will continue to improve this offense. And I think that having Jalen Waddle's ability to go over the middle, catch the ball, and keep running may open up more passing options for Bo Nix. Sutton's a big down the field guy, or like a fine zone, sit in it and make a good catch. And Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, Marvin Mims, deep ball guys, LaJordan Humphrey, a contested catch guy. But they really didn't have what Jalen Waddle has, which is a pure athlete route runner that makes outstanding athletic catches and catches with his hands over the middle and can break off a big play at any given time. Their tight end room, I think that Evan Ingram plays a role, but I don't think that he is an important player in this offense for anything other than checkdowns. He's a little older. He isn't a great inline blocker, but he still does it, and he has really good hands, which is the biggest thing for Bo Nix. But other than that, I don't think that him or any of these other tight ends are really more than a role player in this offense. Adam Prentice, fullback, get in there, block for the boys. Love it. Love teams with fullbacks. This offensive line is one of the best offensive lines in the league. Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Miners, and Mike McGlinchey Wattenberg is probably the only one who I don't really know who he is, but the rest of the offensive line are all above average, if not top 10 or even top 5 at their position, especially Quinn Miners. Shout out Division 3 product of Quinn Miners, just an absolute dog. This offense, I think, could potentially take another step with the addition of Jalen Waddle and Bo Nix being in the offense for another year, being a pro for another year, but you hope that he comes back from his injury and looks just like he did prior to it. Very fluky injury, but because for that reason exactly is kind of why I think he will bounce back and have a good year. As for the defense, I think that even though I'm not a huge John Franklin Myers fan, like he is good. DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, Zach Allen, good interior three. Jonathan Cooper may be out for a while, pending whatever happened with um, the potential arrest or case that he was dealing with over the summer. If you lose him for any stretch of games, I get worried about these outside backers. So you have guys like Jonah Ellis, Dondrea Tillman, Drew Sanders, guys who could probably add to this pass rush, but really it's going to fall on Nick Benito and Cooper if he is playing and doesn't have any problems with the law. Singleton, when he lost his nut and sat out, it was a pretty noticeable difference from him to the next guys. I think that him being back and healthy will, for the entire season, will be beneficial. But I think that this offense or this defense could really benefit from a interior linebacker upgrade. I don't think it will happen this year, but I think in next year's draft it will be something they look for. Justin Stranad played pretty good in a limited role last year, but I think that this front seven as a whole will be pretty good, and they were good last year. So you hope that the JFM loss doesn't really tank them, and maybe he was a bigger player on this defense than I thought or they thought. For this DB room, Pat Surtain, one of the best corners in the league, lockdown, can shut down an entire half of the field. Talanoa Hufanga, obviously great for the 49ers, was not re-signed, signed with the Broncos, and has played great. Brandon Jones was pretty dang good last year. Jaquan McMillan was really good last year and had a huge play in the playoffs. And Riley Moss gets picked on, but I think he's actually not that bad as a secondary corner. I just think that because he's so much worse in comparison to Pat Surtain that he just gets picked on a lot. For that reason, I think that Jahdae Barron may start to get a little more run in games just due to the high capital they used on him. But he's got to beat out Riley Moss. So where I think this team could be better, they had one of the best defenses in the league last year, so you hope that it stays that way. But with the loss of John Franklin Myers and potentially Jonathan Cooper, if serves some kind of suspension, it could cost this defense a little bit. So maybe only a top 10 defense, but with the addition of Jalen Waddle, you think that maybe this offense can become a top 10, maybe even a top 5 offense with Bo Nix and Sean Payton kind of leading the way. This team has the ability to be one of the best teams in the league. They could have been in the Super Bowl last year. They were basically one player away from it, being their quarterback. And whereas Stidham I don't think's a bad backup, he's not Bo Nix. And as much as people like to clown on Bo Nix and Bo Picks and Bo Throws Picks, whatever you want to call him, he is a good quarterback and definitely above average. He's athletic. He's a good playmaker. He doesn't throw a ton over the middle, but when he throws with timing and accuracy, and he's got a good deep ball. He also throws really well in the run, pretty accurately. So I think this team is going to be good, and I already said this last video. I think this team is going to be one of those divisions that could potentially have 3 playoff teams in it. Now, how they rank, well, you'll have to wait for the end. Moving on to the next team, in the Kansas City Chiefs. Huge addition in Kenneth Walker III, obviously reigning Super Bowl MVP, coming over from the Seattle Seahawks. Probably going to be their true 3-down workhorse back. Patrick Mahomes coming off an ACL tear. It looks like he will be completely fine and have no restrictions going into week one. And even if he does, I don't think Justin Fields is all that good, but he can get you a win with his legs alone. He is an extreme athlete. He probably should have taken the Terrell Pryor route and just kind of switched over to different position by now. But no, he's going to keep being a backup. He's going to keep making quarterback money and not playing, so he's probably fine with that. This wide receiver room in Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton, I'm not really a fan of it. I don't think it's that good. I do think with the addition of a good running game that it won't fall all on Patrick Mahomes, and maybe you can open up the pass game with having a guy like Kenneth Walker. So having Rashee Rice be that over the middle, Xavier Worthy be the deep ball guy, same with Tyquan Thornton, or Xavier Worthy be more like the slot underneath guy and kind of get it and run with him being one of the fastest players to ever come out of college. I do worry about these receivers. Rashee Rice could serve some kind of suspension, and Xavier Worthy is kind of frail. He freaking ran into Travis Kelce full speed and knocked his own shoulder out of socket and tore his labrum. Like it's kind of sad that that's what happened, but in all reality, it's not even like he was getting hit by a defender who was trying to hurt him. It was a guy running past him and his own player. It hit him funny, but still, he is a thin-framed player. So I think that this wide receiver room can be in aggregate pretty good for Mahomes, and I think Mahomes is still top three, top two, top one quarterback in the NFL. But we have to see what Mahomes can do. I really think their biggest problem is they just haven't had the explosives they used to have with Tyreek. Obviously, no one's Tyreek, but for them to go from one of the biggest explosive teams to basically one of the worst, it's kind of shocking. And I think that may come from their lack of run game and having have to bring a safety down into the box. Travis Kelce's getting on his last legs. He looks slow, little unathletic, but he's still Travis Kelce. He's still going to catch the ball. He had some uncharacteristic drops last year. I think that kind of will probably go away. He's definitely still going to lose a step, but being able to have Patrick Mahomes just dump it down to Kelce or run a choice route and just know that he's going to be there and he's going to be ready for it still puts this duo as probably one of the scarier duos, especially on third downs, if Mahomes is back to running like he was. This offensive line has potential, but it hasn't shown it yet. I think Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey are legit, but Kingsley Suamataia and Josh Simmons have yet to prove that they are true above average offensive linemen in the NFL. And then I really don't know much about Khalil Benson. So Khalil Benson's a rookie. I really don't know much about him. He went to Indiana. I trust that he's probably pretty good. Cignetti doesn't play guys who aren't good, and you probably aren't getting drafted if you're a backup at Indiana prior to this year. So who knows? Maybe Khalil Benson could be legit, and this center, right guard, right tackle combo could be good. But I still think this offensive line as a whole has a big step to take for it to be considered one of the better offensive lines. Moving on to this defense, running a 4-3, picking up Khyiris Tonga from New England. Obviously, you still have Chris Jones, took Peter Woods in the draft, but I think they have some depth. But I worry about their star power outside of Chris Jones. Maybe Peter Woods can step in and be like a true kind of what you expected him to be from his junior film or his sophomore film, whatever film it was prior to last year. And maybe R. Mason Thomas can really pick up some slack that is left kind of to be wanted for by Felix Anyadike Uzoma and George Karlaftis specifically in the pass rush downs. And I don't think Ashton Gelati is really going to take a next step for pass rush prowess. So I do think it's going to have to be R. Mason Thomas who kind of does that. Their linebackers, I'm a fan. I thought Bolton had a down year last year, but I think that he can still come back from that down year and take a big step. He was one of the best linebackers prior to last year. For what Drew Tranquill has been for this team, with Leo Chenal now gone, is big that they kept him. He knows what he's doing. He runs this Spagnuolo defense very well. And this front seven with Cole Christensen could be pretty good, especially in the run defense. But Chris Jones started to look a little checked out last year. I wonder if that's just because he wasn't used to losing as much as they did since they've had Mahomes. And you think that maybe this team can take the one score game luck that they had and kind of flip it on its head. I believe they were 1-11 in one score games last year. Yeah, in one score games, they lost a ton of them, which the year prior, they had one of the best one score game lucks, and it eventually fell apart in the playoffs. So maybe they can flip that around and make the playoffs again this year. Where I worry is their DB room. They got L'Jarius Sneed back from the Titans. They have Chamari Connor and Alohi Gilman. Their first round draft pick, and Mansour Delane, and then Kader Kohu in the nickel. Are we thinking L'Jarius Sneed can get back to what he was for the Chiefs before they traded him? I don't think so. Chamari Connor and Alohi Gilman is an okay safety duo, but I don't think it's anything special. Delane's never played in the pros. They already had the oven mitts on him because he's getting grabbing penalties in practice. No, I'm just kidding. I did see the video of him with the oven mitts on, but I don't know if that's why. And then Kader Kohu is a pretty good nickel. But after those guys, man, it really starts to go downhill. I really worry that this team, if any of these guys either don't play to what they're being expected to play to, or they get hurt, this team's defense is kind of going to fall apart, especially with the lack of high-end pass rush prowess. Maybe Chris Jones and Peter Woods can do it from the interior, but it's a lot easier to double team guys on the interior than it is edge. Moving on to the next team, the reigning number one overall pick in Fernando Mendoza, along with the Las Vegas Raiders. While Mendoza is not going to start this year, I do think he is going to get some playing time eventually towards the end of the season, especially if they are losing quite a few games. Ashton Jeanty just went down with some weird injury that people thought was like a season-ending knee injury. Turns out he just sprained his ankle. Maybe it's a little overestimated on how bad it was, or a little underestimated on how bad it actually is, with them downgrading it basically to a ankle sprain. Who knows? But I think Mike Washington is an exceptional backup. I mean, in the preseason, Jeanty's looked great, and then Washington, it's like you have to go for Jeanty for, on average 4 quarters, and then you get the few plays that Mike Washington's going to come in and he's just bigger than Jeanty. Just as fast, not as good, but a big bruising guy. This wide receiver room is bad. Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, Jack Besh, Malik Benson, Dante Thornton, and Derek Young. These are going to be trivia names in a few years, really. I think that Naylor could actually stand out as their true wide receiver one. I think that when he played last year, he was one of the only guys who had legit positive output with J.J. McCarthy, which is impressive because not even Justin Jefferson could do that. So I wonder if he's going to be their true wide receiver one and actually pretty good for this offense. And Brock Bowers is the truth. He is, as Clint Kubiak said, a football robot angel from heaven, or whatever he said. Something kind of weird, but he said it. And Brock Bowers, it has been the truth since he's come out of college. He was a little hurt last year, but I still think that he's going to be their true, like, basically wide receiver one at tight end this next upcoming year. Michael Mayer is a good backup, so they got 2 great tight ends. Wouldn't be surprised if they run a lot of 12 personnel with these wide receivers they have. You are basically getting Colton Miller back for the first time since 2 years ago because he played not very much last year. Huge signing in Tyler Linderbaum. JPJ can move out to guard. DJ Glaze, not bad. Trey Zune was a good draft pick, I thought. And then Spencer Burford is an okay guard. I think this O line will be better than it was last year. I still worry that it's not going to be that good. But maybe it just takes some time for them to mesh. I mean, we saw how Clint Kubiak handled a not so good, or at least what people thought was a not so good offensive line in Seattle, and they turned out to win the Super Bowl. So, but I think Gentry's one of the best running backs in the NFL. I think that once he's healthy and behind an offensive line that's gelled, that he will really show, why he was a Heisman runner-up and should have won the Heisman, in my opinion. Moving on to the defense, another 3-4 defense. Thomas Booker, Adam Butler, Jonah Laulu. I don't know any of those names, man. This defense was not good last year. I like some of the additions. I thought the Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Kwity Paye additions, and I mean, kind of Max Crosby if you think about it, because they tried to trade him and now they're adding him back. I think these guys are an exceptional set of edge and linebacker groups. I'm not a huge fan of Nakobe Dean or Quay Walker by themselves, but Nakobe Dean was very good for the Eagles when healthy, and Quay Walker, even though he doesn't know how to read play action for his life, is a good downhill linebacker and pretty athletic. Maybe the Raiders kind of get him to figure out what play action looks like and get him to read it. And the Max Crosby Kwity Paye combo could be pretty good. I liked Kieran Crawford. I thought that he was a really good pick. And same with Jermod McCoy. I already talked about that earlier. Traden Stukes. Like, this team, this defense has some potential. I still think that they're a few years away, especially because of this interior defensive line and potentially Quay Walker. I just don't think is that good. I like Jeremy Chin, and Isaiah Polamau, but I don't think these guys are really end game Super Bowl playoff caliber players. Darian Porter's pretty good. I actually really liked him coming out of college. Teron Johnson, I think, is cooked. I don't think he's really what he used to be when he was with the Bills. And Eric Stokes is okay, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jermod McCoy ends up becoming their starter by the end of the season. I mean, he was the truth coming out of college. Like, he looked so good before that knee surgery and knee injury. So I wonder if he can get back to that and really take this team to the next level at the cornerback position. Moving on to the final team in the LA Chargers, Justin Herbert, and the if team is the if man, and he's a top 5 quarterback in my opinion, because he's not an if man. I mean, he is, because a lot of it is if, but the point is, he is an exceptional quarterback. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's great at movement in the pocket. He can create, he can run, he can layer. The only thing is maybe he needs to put a little more touch on the ball sometimes. But playing with Mike McDaniel now at OC, I think this offense is going to be on timing like crazy. You have a quarterback that can zip the ball into any pocket, which you did not have with Tua. And so I wonder if that really turns this offense into, an explosive potential 5,000 passing yard, 42 touchdown season for Herbert. Omarion Hampton, Keaton Mitchell, pretty good 1-2 duo. I think Hampton lacks a little bit in his agility behind the line and in pockets to really break and cut back on those cutback lanes on zones. He's really good on outside sweeps and outside zone pitches and tosses, but I want to see more downhill running and decisiveness behind the line of scrimmage to set up guys and make, a juke to the next gap after setting it up. And maybe he can do it with this offense, but McDaniel likes his fast players, which is why they went out and got Keaton Mitchell. This wide receiver room is weird. Quentin Johnston's been getting better every year, and Ladd McConkey had a great rookie year and then a down last year. Trey Harris was kind of this hyped up prospect coming out of college and really hasn't done anything yet. Obviously, with Keenan Allen being here last year, he really didn't get on the field that much, but Keenan Allen signed with the Colts, so he's not coming here. Brennan Thompson, Keandre Lambert-Smith, both pretty good backups. I'm really intrigued by what Brennan Thompson can be if he gets on the field. And this tight end room is very intriguing. Charlie Kolar is a blocking tight end that has some potential receiving prowess. David Njoku was pretty injured last year, but is a pretty good athlete, and he's 30, so he's getting towards that age. But tight ends kind of have a really long shelf life. And Aronde Gadsden was a huge fantasy darling towards the end of last year, but now apparently is really struggling with the offense, so he may not even see the field that much. Overall, I think the weapons and the talent is there for this offense to be potentially the number one offense in the league. You have a top five quarterback. You have an offensive coordinator that has taken players to insane heights, like Tua's 5,000-yard passing season, Tyreek Hill's potential almost record-setting receiving season. And I think that with Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, they could really like them getting healthy, I think that they could really step up the protection and getting this offense to that next level. The problem is Tyler Biadasz, who they just signed, just is done for the year. So Jake Slaughter, their first round draft or their draft pick from the prior draft, will be sliding into center. Cole Strange and Coyote Awosika will be playing guards. Don't really know. Strange was that really big reach by Bill Belichick for the Patriots. I don't know how he's been since. I know he's played a little bit for some teams, but who knows? But maybe just having Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt back healthy will be all that is needed, and this offense will soar to new heights. And this defense was really good last year, but losing Jesse Minter could be a problem. You do have Jim Harbaugh, and as much as John Harbaugh has kind of flamed out and obviously went on to new things in New York, I think Jim Harbaugh knows how to get defensive coaches and coaching staffs in the door. Having Tier Tart, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Jamari Caldwell at interior, fine. They're pretty good. I like Dalvin Tomlinson's tape. He's a good run defender. Having Deion Henley and Denzel Perryman at linebacker, I thought that's a pretty good duo. Deion Henley has been kind of stepping up in my eyes of like where he ranks among linebackers. And then you have Tuli Tuipulotu, Khalil Mack at the edges. Khalil Mack's been kind of on his last legs, but he's still putting up insane sack numbers. So keep it going as long as he can. I mean, shout out ex-Bear. He was great for the Bears. He's been great for the Chargers. He was great for the Raiders. So even though he has lost a step, he's still a great power rusher. And you brought in Akeem Mesidor in the draft, who I thought was not nearly as good as Ruben Bain, but probably one of the better edges in this class. And I thought he could have gone way higher than he ended up going. And Bud Dupree is a good rotational guy as well. Tuli Tuipulotu, you hope, can take that next step, and I'm thinking that he will. I think that he will. And I think that this DB room, their corners are a little questionable in Dante Jackson and Cam Hart. Their safeties, I like Derwin James. He's been awesome when he plays. Elijah Molden's okay, but I think Derwin James picks up a lot of that slack, and Trahib Still is a good nickelback for this defense. I think that this defense, um, even though they lost Jesse Minter, I think that it can really take a step with some young guys kind of stepping up, like Tuli Pelotu, and maybe guys who are older guys, Khalil Mack, Derwin James, stay healthy and really show what they can do for this new offense. I think that if you get the advancement of Amari Hampton's game behind the line and in between tackles, running something other than like outside zone and pitches, that this offense can really explode. And I think this defense, if they stayed kind of where they were last year, they're going to be a playoff team easily. With that being said, we will move on to the rankings. Now we have the rankings of the AFC West, the last division of this divisional preview series that I've been doing. We are so close to the NFL season. If you like what you're seeing, get ready for what you're going to be seeing during the season, because I'll be trying to get back to 2 videos out a week, probably breaking down the upcoming week on Wednesday through Friday, maybe talking a little bit about the Thursday night game, depending on when it comes out, when the videos come out or when I film it, and then obviously breaking down the prior game on Monday night, either during the game or Tuesday. That'll probably be the plan. It'll probably be like a Wednesday, Saturday release, is kind of what I'm thinking right now. But that is TBD. And let us get right into the rankings after I say one last thing. If you like the video, like and subscribe. Comment down below if you think I'm going to do this right or if you think I'm stupid. But I'm not. I'm a ball knower. Anyway, in fourth place, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. They're just a few years away. Their draft class this year seems like it could be a step in the right direction. Mendoza, you have the QB of the future, what you hope. Jamad McCoy could be, a CB1 and ended up falling to the fourth round. Genty, Brock Bowers, you have a good young core. You just need to keep building around it, keep getting offensive linemen in that are worth a damn, and keep going. I think that some big storyline for this team is obviously Genty. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be able to play, to the height that he can? Is this wide receiver room really that bad? Or can Jalen Naylor kind of pick up some slack and be a true wide receiver one? Does Fernando Mendoza end up getting a start this year? And how many games does it happen? After how many losses do you think? Comment that down below. How many losses do you think it takes before they put him in? At number 3, I do have the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though they are going to have one of the easier schedules in this division, they still have to play the Chargers and the Broncos twice this year each. And I just think that their defense is still not that good. They have not built it out well, in my opinion, over the last few years. And even though Spagnuolo is a good defensive coordinator, I don't think their defense has been really that good the last few years with their decline in talent overall. Their wide receivers are something to be. There's something left to be wanted with their wide receivers. I don't think they're all that good. Rashee Rice is a product of a system that I think just kind of forces him the ball. I don't actually think he's that good. And Worthy is just not a very good 2. He could be a good 3, but not a good 2. Mahomes is still that guy, and I think that that's how they're going to get a lot of wins, especially with some of the one-score luck. And I really think that they could be 2 or 1 even in this division, but I just think that their defense is really hurting from the amount of money they're spending on guys like Mahomes and Travis Kelce and their first-round pick with Worthy, guys like that. And they just paid K9, but that addition could be worth it. I hope it is, because I really like Kenneth Walker. In second, I do have the Denver Broncos, and the only reason I say that is because I think that they're going to have the harder schedule. They are bound for some regression. They're one of the few teams that, even though they win a lot of games, it never feels like they're really beating teams and blowing them out. It feels like their defense is keeping them in it and their offense is keeping them in it instead of blowing the other team out. I like Bo Nix. Maybe Jalen Waddle really gets the passing game going, especially over the middle. They are one of the highest passing rates in the league, which is kind of surprising. But for being such a high passing rate, they don't have explosives and they don't have high scoring games other than, when they blow a team out by 40. But that just makes their points per game look better. But when you look at it in reality, a lot of their wins are very close games and relying on the defense to kind of carry them, even though they could have shut it out early in the third quarter. And finally, I know everyone keeps doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it because I want them to be it. I want the Chargers to win this division. I want Justin Herbert to be in the MVP. I think it can happen with Mike McDaniels. Mike McDaniels, if you watch any kind of clips, has been in awe of Justin Herbert's arm. Obviously, watching Tua's arm the last few years, it's not the same level of throwing the ball. I think that this offense is going to explode, and I think as long as the defense stays roughly where it was, this team can be, the 1 seed in the AFC. I really think that it can do it, and I'm just waiting for Herbert to take that step and be the next guy and truly step into that fifth round, or not fifth round, top five quarterback that I think he is. And I think that after this year, he could be top three. We'll see. Hot take, but I do think he's awesome. Storylines with this team is obviously, how is Mike McDaniel going to look with this offense? How is Herbert going to look with his offensive linemen back? And are the offensive linemen going to be back and stay healthy? Storyline for the Broncos: how is Jalen Waddle going to look in this offense? How is Bo Nick going to look coming back from injury? And can this defense stay at the top of their game and being one of the best defenses in the league? With the Chiefs, the biggest storyline is, how can Patrick Mahomes come back healthy? And is this a last run for a bunch of these guys on this team? Are they going to want out? Is Andy Reid getting on the hot seat if they have another bad season? Who knows? I think that their offense has gotten a little stale. Same kind of thing happened with the Eagles, but obviously the Eagles didn't win multiple Super Bowls like the Chiefs have. So all in all, I have the Chargers at 1, the Broncos at 2, Kansas City at 3, and the Raiders at 4. That is the final divisional preview for this 2026 offseason. Next video is probably going to be a early positional, or like early awards choosing, with like the runner and explaining why the front runner is the front runner, and then a dark horse of mine who I think will win it, stuff like that. But that's just the opinion of a ball knower. We'll see you later.